Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Pretty good here, and welcome to the channel. You'll have to excuse my voice today. I'm a little hoarse for some reason. I don't know. But anyway, today we're going to do the cold air intake, the TRD cold air intake on the Tacoma over here. You can see I've already got her lid open, and all the parts and stuff are sitting right down here on a table behind me. All the stuff that came in the kit, as well as the tools that I'm going to need. And you really don't need much in the way of tools. I have a knife just to cut the stuff open with, an extension if you need it for the socket, of course a metric socket set. I've got some extended or longer sockets in case I need them. I have a 12mm wrench, a couple of Phillips screwdrivers. The Mountain Dew is optional, and that's really it. We will be reusing some of the parts on the existing OEM air intake, so just take note of that. And then of course I have the instruction manual here that I printed off the net. Now this video might be just a tad long, I'll warn you right now, and the reason for that is I'm going to go over every step of this. I tried to find an installation video on the web so I could, see somebody else do it. I couldn't find any, so I'm going to provide one so that if anybody out there is looking to do this, you can see it step for step and the way it's actually done, as opposed to some high-speed menagerie or the finished product. So we're going to start. We're going to follow the instructions and get it done. Okay, first step that we need to do after making sure we had all the parts, which we do, is to disconnect the negative terminal on the battery. That, of course, takes a 10mm socket. So let's go ahead and do that. Got it. Okay, next we need to remove the engine cover. To do that, you just lift it up in the front and pull it forward. Pretty simple. Okay, next it says to loosen the inlet tube hose clamp at the throttle body. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That is actually right here. So let's go ahead and loosen that. Doesn't take much. Again, it is a 10mm socket. All right, we have that nice and loose. And then it says to squeeze the clamp on the PVC hose, slide it back and disconnect the hose from the inlet duct. That would be right back here. There's a little clamp right up here in front of us. We want to squeeze that. We'll see if I can do that with my fingers and remove it from this, they call it the inlet duct. That's pretty simple. See if we can actually get it to come off now. That's the difficult part. Okay, a little bit of wiggling and that will come off. Not too bad. Next, excuse me, it says squeeze the clip and unplug the MAF harness. The MAF harness. So that should be right there. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can't get that off. Pretty simple. There's just a little clip on the top you have to squeeze and that will come right off. Next, it says to unclip the MAF wiring harness from the top of the factory box. That would be this clip right here. Let's see how that works. I think it does. So you just take a little screwdriver, put it in the slot, and it'll pop right up, and that allows you to remove the MAF sensor, at least from the top of the existing air box. So that's pretty cool. Next it says, unclip the MAF wiring harness from the side of the factory resonance chamber. That would be this part right here. Okay, hopefully we'll focus in there. That part is actually clipped in, and if you use a little screwdriver, again, another invaluable tool here, you should be able to get it underneath the lip in the back and just pry it up, I'm thinking. So let's see if we can indeed do that without breaking anything. And that's it, you just pry it up, and now the MAF sensor is free. So we're just going to kind of lay that right back behind here so that we don't forget about it and move on to the next step. Alright, next we're supposed to unclip the 2 retaining clips on the airbox lid and remove the complete assembly. So that would be these 2 clips here, and then this whole part should pull off away from the intake there on the front that we loosened the clamp on earlier. So let's go ahead and see if we can't do that. Because we should be free now, in theory. Let's see what we get here. Oh yeah, I love it when it works the way it's supposed to. Now we have this whole assembly loose. You want to hold on to this because we're going to need some parts and pieces from this. So let's take this over to the table. Okay, next step is to remove that air filter, and then down below are 3 screws holding the air box in, and we're supposed to lift the air box out. So we're going to go ahead and pull the filter. That should be the easiest part. You guys can see my filter looks pretty much brand new. Let's set that aside. Now we're going to have 3 bolts down there to remove. Let me see if I can get you guys over so you can actually see those bolts a little better. Maybe over this way. I think you can see a couple of them there. Let me zoom you in a little. Yeah, you can see one right there, and then there are 2 more down there. So we're going to go ahead and pull those. I'm guessing they're 10 millimeter, but we'll see. They are 12 millimeter bolts. So let's go ahead and loosen those. Let's pull that box out. Pretty simple. You guys can see how the little intake here is set up on the whole box. Now let's go on to the next step. Alright, the next step is to remove, man, I think I have my voice back for a minute, is to remove the OE air inlet duct from the lower air box using a small screwdriver or nylon pry tool to raise the area around the locating tab and remove the inlet duct. So that is going to be this piece here. And I am going to grab a pry tool because I don't want to mess anything up, you know. And you notice we're kind of adding tools as we go. So we're supposed to remove this piece. And there's a notch here that it fits over, so obviously it's not going to twist. But there are a couple of areas here where you can pry up over. There's a little nub. So we're gonna, and I want to take note of the way this faces. I don't know if it matters for the next part, but it kind of faces this way, if that makes sense. But I don't know that that'll matter. So let's see if we can pry this sucker up. Oh, pretty simple. Pry tool works great. You could use a little screwdriver too, it wouldn't matter. But it just comes right off, just like that. So we'll set this in our never to be used again box back here. There you go. So we have that separated, set that aside. The next step, we need our bits and pieces from the top again, or that we took off originally. It says to unclip the MAF wire harness from the top of the factory airbox lid, which is here. retain for later use. So that's going to be this piece right here. So let's flip this sucker over, see what we've got underneath. We have nothing we can get to underneath. So it says to unclip. It's one of those little push holder type things, I think. Right down in here, I think if you push on this side, should enable us to at least pull it out of there. We're going to see. I don't know if that pushes down or not. Not really. How about from the sides? Let's try our needle nose pliers. I think if we grab it this way from the sides and squeeze in there, we'll be able to pull this out. I think. Indeed, that's how it works. So, this clip has two little nubs here on the side, and while it's in there, if you squeeze those in and pull out, you can pull it right out of there. Now I do want to make note of the way it was in there. It was in there like this because this little lid part is going to close back down over the MAF sensor wire. So it is facing, or the back of it rather, is facing the passenger side of the truck. So we'll sit this in our to be reused parts pile over here. Next, let's see. Next it says to remove the airbox retaining clips to use, or for later use rather. These are the clips right here. You can see here and here. We need to remove these because they're going to go on the new box. Let's see how that works. Pretty easy to do, not difficult at all. Much easier than I thought it was going to be. Let's try this one. Not too bad, just a little bit of finagling. All right, next up is to remove the MAF sensor itself. Take note, it does have an arrow here which points the way that it goes, airflow into the engine. I don't think you can put it on backwards anyway, but take note of that. This is a little screwdriver. I'm not sure, I think it's a number 3. Just some little screws in here. These are the ones that when you're done, you're ready to put it back on, you've lost. So keep track of those, they are very small. There you go. There's that troublesome little bugger. We'll set that aside with its screws so we don't lose them. And I think that might be all of the pieces that we're going to cannibalize from the old piece. So we're going to set this piece aside and start on the new intake. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put the MAV sensor back on. It says install the MAF. Wait a minute here. At the workbench, install the MAF into the TRD upper air box using the screws removed. So that's where we're going to keep what we had before. And remember, and it only fits on one way. The bracket doesn't work backwards. I looked. So we want it to be with the arrow with the flow. So it's going to be going this way. So let's go ahead and gently stick that thing back in there. And it does seat in there pretty darn well. I like that. Nice firm seat. So let's go ahead and get our screws back in. If you have a magnetic screwdriver, which I thought I did, but apparently I don't, it would come in quite handy here. We've got the MAF sensor back in. Now, it wants us to put the MAV's harness clip is going to be installed right here. And if you remember, it's supposed to go on the, well, let's look at the directions. It shows it over the top like so. And if I do it like that, this is actually in the truck, that is going to be facing the passenger side. So, not that this is hard to get back out and redo if you want, but no reason to. Just go ahead and push that just like that. That's it. And we've reinstalled that part. Now, it says install the airbox retaining clips removed in that prior step. So those are going to be located here and here. I'll zoom you guys out a little bit. So we want to go ahead and put those back in. Obviously they're going to be going down so that they clip. Let's make sure we have that right. Should be in like so. Okay, we've got one side in, and there actually is a lot of give in this clamp. I made it look a lot more difficult than it was to start out. Pair of needle nose pliers, you get the one side in, it doesn't matter, and then just pull it using pressure from the other side holding it down, and it works pretty easy. It's not nearly as difficult as I would have made it appear. So that's it, that part is done. Let's move on. Let's see, next we're going to be assembling the bellows, the inlet tube, and the coupler intake components as shown, it says, and attach to the upper air box. So that's this piece here, the TRD piece. So we're going to go ahead and install all these component parts. Let me get them all unwrapped. You guys probably don't care to see that, and then we'll come back on and put it together. Okay, got it all laid out for you guys there. And for me. Now, pay attention to a couple of things here. There are some grooves and notches and things in these pieces that show you where they're supposed to go. For instance, this little nip here, whatever you want to call this, this fits over that. So it's pretty simple to put this together. There are the same things on the other side. There's one over here, right there, that is going to conveniently fit over a piece here. Hopefully the camera picks that up. So you really can't screw this up if you pay attention to how these parts are supposed to go. I've got it laid out. It says here to only tighten 3 of the 4 clamps. So, and it's this one, and this one. Do not tighten this one yet, obviously, because there's nothing to tighten it to. So we're going to go ahead and fit these parts together, and then tighten the clamps that it tells me I should be tightening. This may be more difficult than it looks to do. So I'm going to go ahead and fit these all on. I'm not going to have you guys on here for that because it's just me fitting parts together. So once I have it all on and tightened, we'll come back on. Now, as I go here, another little tip for you guys. This is the little nub that I was talking about right here. So it has to fit up tightly against that, and these 2 parts fit over each side. And then as you go, there are some pieces on here that it fits up tightly against. You can see here. That's how you know that you've got it on properly. So it's the same way all throughout. We've got this one on. It actually wasn't too bad. Easy way to do it is just to start with it turned a little bit and then kind of twist it on. These give, so when you get to this nub, they'll flip right over it. Worked pretty well. Okay, there you go. We've got everything nice and tightened down. It does say on here to torque it to 30 inch-pounds. I don't have a torque wrench, so I just kind of snug it until it feels like I'd have to get on it more, if you will, to go any further. The pieces are pretty simple to put on. Make sure that you have your clamps as loose as you can get them. It'll make your life a lot easier. And that's it. Pretty simple. You guys can see where we're at right now, so we're going to move on to the next step. Oh, and one more thing I'll mention. It does take a 8mm socket if you want to use a socket to tighten these clamps down as opposed to a screwdriver. The socket works much easier. All right, next it says to, at the vehicle, install the TRD air horn in the inner fender. This is the TRD air horn, but before we do that, a couple of things. There's a slot right here. You want to make sure that that's facing up. And the reason is because when you reinstall the bottom part of the air box, there's a slot here that will fit into it. And then on the sides, for locating, I assume, you'll see a hole there and a hole here, and they correspond to these little nubs on the sides of the air box, the lower air box. So we're going to go over and get this seated inside the fender, and I assume the next step is going to be putting that lower part of the air box in, but stay tuned. All right, we're gonna go over and put this in. I might block some of the view, but you can see in the hole right there, that's where this piece is gonna go. So let's get that in. So I hit my head on the hood. It's not pleasant. Let's see, again, I want to find that little nub, wherever it is. Oh, it's here. So this is actually going to squeeze through there. Oh, that's going to be interesting. You see it's bigger than the hole. So it has to squeeze through there, obviously, to be seated in there properly. So that's something I didn't realize. There's a little tip for you. So we got to squeeze this thing in there. That's going to be interesting. Maybe not. Let's just see. I think we're okay. So let's move on to the next step. All right, as I suspected, the lower air box here is next. And we're going to go ahead and slip that in. Okay, you guys can see the box is in there now. It did take a little bit of finagling. When you put that piece through your fender, on the lip that it looks like it should fit up against, it actually needs to come back into the engine bay about 1/4 inch or so, so that the tangs, I guess they're called, on the airbox inlet actually fit into them. So you can push it in that way, then pull it out a little bit. It doesn't push all the way against like it looks like it should, which is okay because that gives it a nice good seal. So next we need to reinstall the 3 bolts inside the air box. Well, 2 inside the air box and 1 on that side over there, and then we'll move on. All right, we are nearing the end. Now it's time for the TRD air filter. So we're supposed to install that in the lower air box, so let's get that thing out. You can see it sitting right here. These things always look so huge in the box, you know. Let's see what we've got here. Here is the TRD sticker that we will put on. I'll put that somewhere. We'll get to that in a few minutes. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing out of here. Look at that nice red color in TRD form. Let me go ahead and turn the camera around and I'll show you how to place that in. Pretty easy to do, but I'll show you nonetheless. All right, all you have to do here is just put it in. Just like that. Goes in just like the other one does, so not very difficult. Now we're going to reassemble the top of the air box and the MAV sensor and all that good stuff. All right, we are in the home stretch. Let's grab our upper cover from the top of the air box, as it were, and crawl back up here. And we're not fastening anything down yet except for over the intake here. So it says, install the assembled TRD intake system by pushing the coupler over the throttle body and tighten the number 48 hose clamp. That's the one hose clamp that we hadn't tightened before. Again, you're supposed to torque that to 30 inch-pounds. You see that little nub sitting on top of the throttle body there? There's a little area that fits into, rather, on the cover. So we're going to make sure we get that right. We have our clamp nice and loose, hopefully. And let's see if we can't get this puppy on there the way I want it. And the good thing about this is it does twist, so I've got to decide where I want. I think I'll put the bolt or the screw up here on top so I can tighten it and untighten it that way if I ever wanted to for some reason. All right, so now we just have to tighten down the clamp, which it has told us to do. So we're going to tighten that down and then button up the rest of it. Next, we're going to engage the clips and secure the air box. So we're going to do that part next. All right, we've got you guys over here where the clips are. You can see this one right here. It goes in that little area right there, slides in. There's one on the other side that you can't see. But we're going to go ahead and put those in. This may be a little difficult because it is brand new and stiff, but let's find out. Not bad at all. Get my clamp over here out of the way. I'll probably be a little more successful. There. I was actually fighting the clamps on the sides over here. You guys can see right there. I was actually fighting the clamps. They were underneath the lid. So that was kind of keeping me from pushing the lid down. It is down now, as you guys can see. I'm not sure if we're supposed to fasten it yet. Let's see. It says engage. So we're going to engage. Let's go ahead and push these down. One on each side, of course. One here, one over here. There, we're engaged. Oh boy. And we're engaged. Nice, perfect fit. I love it. So, next, let's grab our instructions here. Remember, we're following all of the instructions. Next, we're supposed to connect the PVC hose to the inlet tube, position the spring clamp over the intake turn nipple. All right, so let's go ahead and put that PVC piece back on. I'll scoot you guys over here a little bit. Zoom you in so you can see the carnage. Let's see, that's going to be right there. You can see the tube sticking out, or the nipple, I guess. And we'll put the pipe over it and secure it. Okay, so we should just be able to twist this puppy back on there. Or not back on, on. It's never been on this one before. That was pretty slick, pretty simple. Much easier to get on than it was to get off, I can tell you that. And then the clamp, we're gonna hopefully squeeze together with our hand, fingers as it were. Yeah, that's pretty easy. Matter of fact, it wants to come right off the other end. We don't want that. All right, there, the clamp is back on. The pipe is on itself, so that part is done. Now it says to attach the MAV wiring harness to the side of the TRD resonator chamber. So that's this part here. We'll go around to the other side. I'll show you guys that. All right, you guys can see it's this little nub right here on the other side of the air resonance chamber. We had taken it off the other one. Just has that little push pin thing. You just push it in. Just like so. It's now in there over here on this side, and I'm assuming the next thing is going to be connecting the MAV sensor back up. Let's consult our directions. We did the harness, and now it says attach the MAV wire harness to the top of the TRD box. All right, so we haven't done that yet. Let me move you guys around and I'll show you where that is. All right, that's going to be that holder right there in the middle of the screen. We just put the wire underneath there. It's just to secure it. And it's right here. So, get my pliers out of the way before I drop them in here. Let's go ahead and get that underneath there and re-snap that puppy shut. Matter of fact, I think it fits a little bit differently, so I'm going to actually slide it back a little, and I'm going to connect, it says to connect the MAV sensor after this, but I'm going to go ahead and connect the MAV sensor right now because I want to make sure it fits properly, and then I'll secure that little clamp down. It's already inside, but I haven't fastened it down yet. So let's go ahead and put the MAV sensor on first. Matter of fact, I'm just going to take it out of there, so I don't want to bind the sensor. There, you guys may have heard that click, I'm not sure, but it's in. So now I'm going to go ahead and secure this back underneath like it says to do, and trying to keep as much pressure off of that piece as I can. that's it. And I believe we're done with the installation. That's pretty much all. We have to put the air engine cover rather back on and reconnect the negative terminal, and then we'll do a little test on how it sounds. But let me show you how to put the cover back on. Matter of fact, the directions tell me to go ahead and connect the reconnect the battery terminal now. It says reconnect the negative battery terminal. So I guess we'll do that following the directions once again. So let me point you guys over to the battery terminal right there, and we'll go ahead and reconnect the battery. Real quick, the engine cover just slides back over via these two nubs, one here and one here, over the nubs back in the back there. You can see one there, and then it pushes down. So let's go ahead and re-engage. And then we should be able to push it back down like so. That's all it is for putting that on. It doesn't sit in there tightly, obviously. And then we are done. So let me back up and I'll show you guys the finished product. All right, there you go. That is what my engine bay looks like now inside my 2018 Toyota Tacoma. I love it. It really, for me, is more of an aesthetic touch. We'll see. We're going to do a start here in a second, see if we notice any difference in sound, so I'll set you guys up for that. That's what it looks like. I think it's pretty darn cool. Let's go do a start and see if we can hear any difference. I forgot to show you where I put the TRD label, and it is right here. So hopefully, if anybody's going to be changing the filter, they'll see this, but that's where I decided to put it. Now we're going to do the startup. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I can. Pretty neat. We'll have to test it out on the road later, but I wanted to give you the three angles, inside, outside, and both front and back of the truck to see if we could notice anything. I can hear something in the hood, or in the cabin rather. It'll be interesting to see if I can hear anything in the playback of the video from outside, comparing the before and after. But anyway, I just wanted to get on here, show you guys a detailed install of the cold air intake, the TRD cold air intake for the Tacoma. Again, I couldn't find anything on the web that had any kind of detail to it. So here you go. If you're interested in this, I think aesthetically it's awesome. It's probably one of the best under the hood aesthetic mods you can do. It looks fantastic. We'll see if it makes any kind of a difference in fuel mileage or horsepower. Some people say it does. I kind of doubt it, but we'll find out. Again, if you're interested in this or other parts from for your Toyota, make sure you check out sparksparts.com. Use discount code RobMotive for 5% off your order. As usual, appreciate you guys watching. Please give this video a big thumbs up. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the web. Have a fantastic day. Bye.